5 silent struggles seniors face but rarely talk about. Somewhere between the birthdays and the doctor visits, between the holiday phone calls and the quiet afternoons, there are things we start to carry that no one quite asks about. Not because they don't care, but because they don't see. And when you've lived long enough, you learn to keep certain thoughts to yourself. Not out of shame, not really, but because it becomes easier to smile politely than to explain the weight behind your silence. It's strange, isn't it? You survive so much, decades of doing, of giving, of becoming. And just when you finally earn the right to rest, to reflect, maybe even to be a little selfish with your time, the world grows quieter around you. People talk faster, listen less. They assume you're content with the surface, with small talk and gentle nods. But inside, you're still full, still complex, still very much alive. And yet there are moments you wouldn't say out loud, the ones that come late at night or in the middle of a slow afternoon, when a song on the radio pulls you back to a place no one else remembers. The ache that comes from hearing laughter down the hall and realizing it isn't meant for you. The way asking for help, even something as simple as opening a jar or reading the fine print, makes you feel smaller than you want to admit. These aren't the stories that get shared at dinner tables or support groups. They don't fit into cheerful catch-ups or polite check-ins. These are the quiet struggles, the ones that never make it into holiday cards or updates to the grandchildren, the ones that sit in the corners of your heart, waiting for a moment when someone might truly notice. That's what this space is for. This is not about dwelling on sadness or painting aging as a tragedy. Far from it. This is about speaking the unspoken, about saying, yes, this is real too, and realizing that you're not the only one who feels it. Because somewhere out there, someone else is carrying the same silence, and sometimes hearing it named out loud. That's the beginning of feeling seen again. So let's go there. Not to complain, not to dramatize, but to acknowledge the truth, the quiet truth, the kind that doesn't need to shout to matter. You've carried these thoughts long enough. Let's lay them down together and see what grows in their place. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not like someone flips a switch and suddenly you're unseen. It creeps in slowly, moment by moment, word by word. A conversation that moves too fast for you to join. A family gathering where your presence is politely acknowledged but not truly engaged. A younger person who talks to you like you're made of paper, fragile, outdated, no longer part of the real world. And the hardest part? It's not strangers who make you feel invisible. It's the people you love, the ones you raised, cared for, cheered on, made sacrifices for. The ones who used to come to you for advice, for comfort, for everything. And now they nod and smile and scroll their phones. They don't mean to forget you. They just think you'll always be there quietly in the background, like the old photograph on the mantle that no one dusts anymore. There's a particular ache in watching life go on without you. Not because you're gone, but because you're no longer considered essential. You hear about decisions after they're made. You offer thoughts that get politely brushed aside. You show up, but it feels like your voice doesn't. No one tells you that aging means fading, not just in body, but in the way people respond to your presence. And the world too plays along. Ads don't speak to you. Technology moves faster than conversation. Customer service reps talk past you. It's as if the world assumes you've stopped having opinions, dreams, or relevance. But you haven't. You still feel everything. You still notice the details, still want to matter, and you do matter. If this sounds familiar, let me say this clearly. You are not invisible here. Not to me. Not to others walking through this same fog. Your presence is still powerful, even when others don't recognize it. Your story still has weight even when people stop asking for it. And your voice, however soft it may have become, still deserves to be heard. We can't control whether others see us, but we can keep seeing ourselves. And that's where healing begins. In the mirror, in the journals we keep, in the friendships we protect, in the quiet, stubborn refusal to disappear just because the world stopped looking. There was a time you did everything yourself. You opened jars, fixed broken things, climbed ladders, balanced checkbooks, drove everywhere. You didn't think twice about asking for help because you didn't need it. And even if someone offered, you'd politely decline, proud of your independence, your capability, your strength. Now things have changed, maybe slowly, maybe all at once. You struggle with buttons some days. You have to read a sentence twice. Your knees argue with the stairs. And there's a part of you, quiet, buried, stubborn, that grieves this shift. Not just because it's inconvenient, but because it chips away at how you see yourself. It's not the help that hurts. It's what it feels like it says about you. There's a kind of shame that grows in the spaces where you once stood confidently. You don't want to ask your children to explain something again. You don't want to press the life alert button. You don't want someone hovering over you when you're trying to do something simple like pour tea or write a check. You worry you're being a burden, that needing help too often will make people pull away, that your value is tied to how much you can still do, rather than who you are. So, you smile. You downplay. You say, "I'm fine," even when you're not. Because saying you need help feels too close to saying you've lost something you once took pride in. But here's the thing no one talks about. Receiving help is its own kind of strength. It takes humility, yes. But it also takes courage to say, "I need a hand," to say, "I can't do this alone today." That is not weakness. That is wisdom. That is honoring your body, your mind, your life. You're not broken because you need help. You're just human. And you're in a season of life where the muscles of independence are being traded for something just as noble: grace, vulnerability, and the trust it takes to lean into others. So let go of the shame. You've earned the right to be supported, just as you supported others for so many years. Needing help doesn't make you less. It just means your story now includes other hands, other hearts, and that's not defeat. That's connection. There's a particular kind of grief that settles in over time, not with one sharp loss, but with many small ones. It's not always marked by funerals or eulogies or flowers. Sometimes it arrives in the form of a phone number you no longer call, a favorite restaurant that closed down, a voice you can still hear in your dreams but can't reach anymore. This is the grief of outliving. When you reach your 80s, your 90s, even your late 70s, you begin to understand what most people don't. That life becomes a collection of absences. The childhood friend you used to write letters to, the sibling who always knew what to say, the neighbor who waved from across the yard. One by one, they're gone. Sometimes expected, sometimes sudden, but always leaving behind a hollow you never fully learned to fill. And it's not just people, it's places too. Towns change, storefronts vanish. Parks you once walked through are paved over. Music doesn't sound the same, not just because the notes have changed, but because the world that made those songs meaningful has shifted. The streets you used to know don't look familiar anymore. Even the weather seems different now. I sit in the same chair in the same house, but it feels like the world around you has moved on, and somehow you're left behind. But you're not stuck. You're surviving. You're adapting. You're still here, and that matters. This kind of grief doesn't go away. It softens, it weaves itself into your routine, but it doesn't disappear. Some mornings you feel it in your bones before you even open your eyes, that ache that has no name, that missing presence you can't explain to anyone younger. It's not always sadness, it's a kind of knowing, a quiet understanding that life is fleeting and what's gone stays gone. Yet, in that truth, there's also a strange kind of beauty, because to feel that much grief means you've lived that much life. It means you've loved deeply and rooted yourself in time and place and people. It means your story is vast, and while the losses may continue, so will your legacy. So take your time with that grief. Don't rush it. Don't hide it. Talk to your loved ones about the ones they never met. Write down the memories before they slip away. Visit the places that still stand, and let yourself remember the ones that don't. Because your past isn't just memory. It's living inside you. And every day you carry it forward, quietly and bravely, you give the world a history it can't find anywhere else. They mean well, the people who say it. You should be grateful. You're lucky to still be here. Think of how many people don't get to grow old, and they're not wrong. But sometimes the way they say it feels more like a command than comfort, as if gratitude should cancel out everything else, as if reaching this age means you forfeited the right to feel frustrated, lonely, sad, or even angry. But here's the truth. Gratitude and grief can live in the same heart. You can be thankful for the years you've had and still feel pain for what they've taken. You can cherish the love that remains and still ache for the love that's gone. You can smile at a sunrise and cry at the silence that follows, and none of that makes you ungrateful. It makes you human. There's an invisible pressure that weighs on many older adults, the pressure to be cheerful, content, wise at all times. To be the smiling grandparent, the cheerful retiree, the one who's just happy to be here. But that image is often a mask, because the truth is some days are hard. Some days your body hurts. Some days your heart feels heavy. And you wonder, am I allowed to say that out loud? Yes, you are. Gratitude doesn't mean denying reality. It doesn't mean forcing a smile when your soul is weary. True gratitude holds space for complexity. It says, I'm grateful to be alive, and I'm also tired today. It says, I'm thankful for my blessings, but I miss how things used to be. Gratitude is not a denial of sorrow. It's the grace to keep going in spite of it. So release that guilt. You don't owe the world a perfect attitude. You don't have to perform happiness. You're allowed to sit in the full truth of your emotions without shame. Being real is more important than being relentlessly positive. And the people who truly love you, they don't need you to be grateful all the time. They just need you to be you, however you feel today. You've earned that honesty. You've earned that space. Gratitude is a gift, but it's not a cage. Let it live alongside everything else you carry, freely and gently, without expectation. There's a quiet kind of longing that settles in the later years, not always for people or places, but for depth, for the kinds of conversations that once stretched late into the night, the kind where ideas flowed like warm tea, where you were seen, understood, challenged, known. Conversations that left you feeling more alive than before they began. As you get older, those moments grow rare. Not because you've lost the ability to connect, but because the world has grown louder, quicker, and thinner. People don't sit still the same way anymore. They check their phones mid-sentence. They smile and nod, but their minds are already elsewhere. You bring up a thought, a story, a question, and they move on before it lands. Even loved ones, well-meaning, as they are, often don't ask you anything real anymore. They assume they already know your story. They come around and talk to you, not with you. They give updates. They ask about your health. But they rarely lean in and say, what do you still wonder about these days? Or, what's something you've never told anyone? Or even simply, are you happy right now? And somewhere deep inside you start to wonder, was the best of my dialogue left in another decade? Have I said everything I'll ever really say? But here's the truth you need to remember: you still have things to say, and someone still needs to hear them. Your thoughts still matter. Your memories are still rich. Your voice, though perhaps softer than it once was, still carries power. And the hunger for meaningful connection isn't something to outgrow, it's something to protect. If the people around you don't ask the deep questions, ask them yourself. Start the conversation. Tell them the story no one's heard. Share the dream you still think about. And if you can't find those conversations nearby, write them. Record them. Speak them aloud to the quiet spaces. Or find others, yes, even now, who still want to go deep. They're out there. And they're looking too. The best conversations are not always behind you. Sometimes they're just waiting for you to invite them in. And sometimes the most meaningful ones are not the loudest or the longest, but the most honest. So don't let your voice go silent. Let it stretch out. Again, you still have so much to say. There's a certain kind of pain that grows heavy in the stillness of older age. Not because silence itself is bad, but because it can carry so much that no one else notices. It fills with thoughts we don't say, fears we don't voice, memories we tuck away like fragile things. And with each passing year, the weight of that silence can feel more private, more permanent. But the truth is, you are not alone in it. The struggles we've talked about, the feeling of being invisible, the quiet shame of needing help, the grief that lingers, the guilt of not always feeling grateful, the ache for meaningful conversation, these aren't flaws. They aren't failures. They're signs that you're still human, still feeling, still growing. Aging doesn't mean fading. It means unfolding, softening in some places, sharpening in others. It means seeing the world through a lens only time can provide, and carrying the kind of wisdom that can't be taught, only lived. So if today you're holding a weight that no one's asked you about, let this be the moment you set it down, even just a little. Let this be your reminder that your emotions, your struggles, your truths, they matter. Not because they're dramatic, not because they're loud, but because they are real. And real things deserve to be seen. You're not too old to be heard. You're not too late to be understood. You are not past your prime. You are still a story unfolding, still a soul with a pulse, still a voice that can change someone's day with just one sentence. So don't disappear. Don't dim yourself. Don't believe the lie that no one wants to hear what's on your heart. We do, and now, more than ever, the world needs what you carry, your truth, your presence, your resilience, even in the silence, especially in the silence. That's where the most powerful stories begin.